but I wanted to get him on because we appreciate his courage in standing up for the Fourth Amendment and basic due process. Rocky Anderson, the elected mayor of Salt Lake City for 2 4-year terms from 2000 to 2008 and ran the city during, obviously, the Olympics, has told the public that the NSA was surveilling the entire city during that. And, of course, the excuse is, well, is to protect you from terrorists. But the point is it just sets the precedent for there to be absolutely no Fourth Amendment, like we're living in North Korea. And so he joins us. He now teaches at the University of Utah about the radical transformation of the constitutional republic in the U.S. during the Bush-Obama years and about the media and mass deception. He continues his vigorous advocacy on behalf of climate protection and cleaning up corrupt electoral system and reform of our criminal justice system, including elimination of mandatory minimum sentences and the decriminalization of drugs. I like that part because the government runs in the drugs. Mayor, former mayor, thank you for coming on with us.
Alex, I appreciate the opportunity because if we don't have this dialogue, if people aren't aware of what is happening to our constitutional republic, how radically it is being transformed, we're just going to all be sitting by passively when these people have their way, and people finally wake up one day and see that this is no longer anything close to the United States of America. And I want to make one thing clear. You described the surveillance in Salt Lake City by the NSA prior to the Olympics. This was in 2001 and 2002 for a period of up to 6 months before and during the Olympics. And this wasn't just metadata, which is just getting the names and who called whom or who wrote to whom. This was the most massive compilation spying on the contents of the largest number of Americans ever without any cause, without a warrant, without any notice. They captured the contents of every single text message and every single email of everyone within the Salt Lake City area. It was absolutely a not only clear violation of the Constitution, of course, but every instance of this was a federal felony under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. And there's a videotape that I've got, and it's available online. You can just go to YouTube and find it. President Bush saying in 2004, oh, by the way, the Fourth Amendment still applies, and in every instance in our fight against terror, we get a warrant in every single instance because it's required by the Constitution, and we value the Constitution. That's what he said in 2004, and yet for years he had ordered the NSA just disregard the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act that was passed by Congress to prevent this very kind of thing after all the disclosures.
That's right.
By the Church Committee in the Senate. They found that the intelligence community had been engaged in this kind of misconduct during the Cold War, and they said, we're going to put a stop to it. So fundamentally, this not only goes to our privacy rights and felonious conduct by governmental agents, it really goes to the question of whether we have the rule of law in the United States, because if there is no accountability, if there's no prosecution for people for violating these laws, if, as President Obama indicated, as soon as he came in as president, that, oh, we're just going to look forward and not look backwards as to people who torture in violation not only of international law, but in violation of our own domestic statutes, the War Crimes Act of 1996, and the federal anti-torture statute, and as to those who engaged in illegal surveillance during the Bush administration, let's just forget about them. Those are the words of a tyrant. When one person can determine when, under what circumstances, and to whom our laws are going to be applied.
You're absolutely right.
This is saying that there are people that really are above the law in the United States. That Nixon was right when he talked to David Frost and said, well, when the president does it, that means it's not illegal.
That is the essence of tyranny. Why not have a Fuhrer? Why not have a Kaiser, a king, czar. And again, if you just joined us, it's RockyAndersonJustice.com. I want to get you on for a full hour in the near future if you can, Mayor, because you can hear the fire of liberty in your voice. You can tell it's in your heart, your gut, your mind. And people need to know we're threatened by this. We're told, give up all your liberties or let us do all this illegal stuff to keep you safe. But the great threat historically is when governments do this, it always becomes a tyranny. They always abuse it. They always target their enemies. And now it's bipartisan. And now we learn they use the NSA on the press, on the Tea Party, the IRS on people, just like Nixon did his enemies. And except this time, nobody's getting in trouble. So if they don't get in trouble, the precedent is set. And I know now you tirelessly fight to warn people. Historically, sir, what do we know is going to happen if no one is held accountable for this?
Well, without accountability, it's Katie bar the door. It's like with the war power. Alex, the war power is exclusively Congress's. It's not for the president. Madison, Jefferson, Hamilton, they all made it clear. Hamilton made it clear in Federalist 69 that the president is merely the first general or admiral. Madison said the greatest wisdom in the Constitution is found in that clause that leaves it for Congress and not the president to decide whether we will engage our military. And what does it become? And you see people talk about Preston. Well, Truman did it, and acting illegally, acting unconstitutionally is not valid precedent.
Well, that's like saying
Obama saying that he has the power to do this. That is a tyranny. The founders said we're going to get away from that. King George makes those decisions. Well, in the United States, it's going to be Congress. It's going to be the people's representatives. And we're losing all of that. We've got a president who adds U.S. citizens to assassination lists now, no due process, and then he asks for the power, and Congress gives it to him for the federal government to go out and kidnap, disappear, and we use the sterile term indefinitely detain. What that means is imprisoning people for up to the rest of their lives with no legal representation, no charges, no trial. It is the most subversive act, no more un-American act ever in the history of this country.
You're right. And I see America is starting to wake up. And I know you're leading a national campaign and founding a new national party, the Justice Party, to try to educate people on this. But I do see some silver lining. I'm seeing a mass awakening across the political spectrum. Are you starting to see that as well, Mayor?
I'm really not, because if there were a mass awakening, we would have masses out in the streets. We would have the equivalent of the civil rights movement, the women's suffrage movement, the labor movement. We would have people rising up and letting every one of our representatives know, including the two duopolist parties, Republican Democratic parties, who have brought us to this state, because they're such total prostitutes. All they care about is the corporate interests that buy their way into Congress.
That's right. Hold on. Stay there, Mayor. We'll come back with one more segment with you. And I want to get you on for a full hour soon if you can do it. Very eloquent words. There is a mass awakening, and then out of the awakening leads the mass action. But I am seeing people really get up. Look, 91% in Reuters polls against the Syria strike, the Joint Chiefs telling Obama no. I mean, we're seeing some unprecedented stuff. I want to get your take on that.
The Alex Jones channel is the official page of the Info War. But don't miss what's happening on our other channels. The Info Warrior, with the week's best videos. Prison Planet Live, where Paul Joseph Watson gives his expert analysis. And keep up with the rest of the InfoWars crew on our other pages. All of our videos are available to repost for educational purposes. See the sidebar of the Alex Jones channel for the subscription links. And remember, you can always find our videos in the highest quality by becoming a member of PrisonPlanet.tv.
But going back to you, sir, front and center, I'm not arguing with you, but yeah, it's not like a civil rights movement, or it's not like, but I mean, I am seeing people Now, listen to what I say. I'm seeing most people agree with us. I'm seeing people against the wars. I mean, I am seeing some positive signs.
And I agree with that. If people are asked, they'll give their opinions or they'll do their mouse click activism and put their names on petitions. But it's going to take a lot more than that, because Congress can just write us all off as long as they know they've got their financial supporters, their sponsors, their people who have their way with Congress and the White House simply by writing out the checks. We've got to all stand up against this corrupting influence of money, against the military-industrial complex, against the control of healthcare policy by the insurance companies, by the pharmaceutical industry, and the fossil fuel industry control over our energy and climate policies. It just goes to the heart of what's so wrong about this country. And in the meantime, we're losing what is at the root of our Constitution. Whoever thought, Alex, in our lifetime, it's as if the Soviet Union invaded us and put in place the KGB, except we have far more dangerous and effective technology that the NSA is using. And I think the really dangerous part of this is we still have the pretense of being a constitutional
Exactly.
republic.
Everybody knows. Everybody knows historically it's the archetype of tyranny to be spied on illegally, and now it's just complete. And now Apple has suicide nets at its factories, but it's liberal. And, you know, the neocons want World War III. It's madness. Madness in the power structure. This NSA stuff's getting used on them as well. They're being blackmailed. How do we get out of this?
What it's going to take is for us all to get beyond our other differences, the wedge issues that, you know, the Fox News folks and a lot of the rest in the mainstream media love to stir up to make it look like we've really got two main political parties, because these two political parties are a duopoly that's taken control of our entire political system. They're profiting from the corruption in our government. And, yeah, they may argue about gay rights and abortion or whatever, but their national security, so-called policy, their foreign desire for empire, wanting to dominate militarily and economically around the world, they're totally in line on that.
Exactly, and they will use us up. They will use us up to build their empire. So I think we tell that narrative, the truth of why we're being sucked dry and why it's so immoral, and I think we can turn it around. The problem is they want to use Homeland Security against political speech to shut down their opposition, and so then I see that leading into something even more serious.
And we have seen that in our nation's history, and we're embarrassed by it. We look back at the sedition acts in this country, the Espionage Act, prosecutions, and we say, oh, how could that have ever happened in the United States? Isn't it great that we've become so much freer? We're not.
Obama's using it on the press.
Back to that point now, the Alien and Sedition Acts, the more prosecutions for the disclosure of documents that are marked confidential, more prosecutions under this administration than under every other prior administration combined. So these folks that have put it all on the line, like Edward Snowden and Chelsea Manning and others who aren't as well known, but who have gone to prison because of whistleblowing on the NSA and on the CIA, true heroes who did this knowing what they were personally putting on the line, like Daniel Ellsberg did so many years ago with disclosure of the Pentagon Papers, so that we, the people, would know what our government is up to. We ought to be praising them. We ought to be all standing up and saying, you know, you are on our side, our government.
I agree.
You start fearing us rather than us fearing our government.
Rocky Anderson, thank you so much for joining us. I hope everybody visits your site. We have it linked up on Infowars.com. And we'll talk to you again in a few weeks to do a full hour. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Alex.
You bet. We're going to break down what's really happening with the economy, what QE Unlimited means to you.
Now you can watch the InfoWars Nightly News streaming live as it happens for free.
Check it out at Infowars.com/show.